Hi, welcome to our Swampcast Recruiting Edition. This is our third special. I'm Robbie Andrew, the beat writer for the Gainesville Sun and Gatorsports.com. And with me is Zach Albaverdi, our recruiting guy. And Zach, it's last weekend for visits, and not a lot of guys coming in, but it could be a big weekend for Florida.
Well, the guys that they have coming in there's good high possibility they could end up in the class. So it's a big weekend in that regard. They have an actual new guy that popped up on the board.
McAvoy.
The JUCO QB who was once playing for South Carolina before he transferred. He kind of came out of nowhere. I'm sure Florida's been looking at him for a while.
Yeah.
And I think this is a reaction to Brissett leaving. Obviously,
I think it is too.
They want a guy that has some experience.
Yeah, they need another quarterback. I mean, you look at the scholarship quarterbacks; they're only three.
Yeah.
So now you got a JC kid that could come in and maybe give them help as a backup. And Morningwig, I'm not sure if he's ready to step in and play yet.
No,
so.
and Staver won't be. And I tell you what, them going after this kid tells you what they think about Tyler Murphy.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think with all the years that he's been on campus that they would consider him a quarterback with experience that could step in, but obviously.
Well, no, the bottom line is he's still the scout team quarterback, basically.
Yeah.
So he helps the defense get ready more than the offense.
And you remember he was a two-star quarterback. Not that matters, but he was still not a guy that didn't have a lot of talent coming out of high school. He was kind of a project all along, and he came from Myers' offense. And I don't think Muschamp considers him as a viable option.
I don't think so.
You remember, when Brissett took over that LSU game in 2011, he ruled out any way that Murphy was going to play.
Nobody was going in. But, Murphy was one of those Meyer projects, like you said, along with Stephen Ali. Who they look good athletically on tape, maybe in high school, but they just don't translate to Florida. And neither one really did anything, and both were kind of a little bit of a bust, I would say.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll see what happens with this kid. He's supposed to visit this weekend. I'm sure Florida's going to really turn up on him. It doesn't seem like he has a lot of schools that he's considering.
Yeah, it looks like 3 or 4, Zach, maybe Clemson, someone else.
Yeah, well, he was down to Oregon and West Virginia, but he's not really interested in Oregon anymore. I don't think he wants to play behind their starting QB, and West Virginia is not really showing him as much interest. So he's kind of shopping around. And if he has a great visit at Florida, who knows? I mean, they could sell the opportunity to be the backup, behind Driscoll, him being one play away from stepping in. So we'll see what happens with that this weekend.
And he's a dual threat guy, Zach. It kind of tells you where they're going with the offense, it seems like to me.
Yeah, and it's, that's funny because, I felt like when Muschamp first came here and Weiss was here that they were really set on, always having a pro-style guy.
Classic drop back.
Yeah, and you know what? I think a lot of the change that we're seeing occurring has to do with Florida's offensive line, that they can't pass protect, or at least they haven't been able to.
And that's why Driscoll became a starter, Zach.
Exactly.
I mean, because he could move around. If Brissett had been there, it could have been a disaster because he didn't run as well. So.
Yeah, and look at the guys that they have coming in. I mean, Staver is not as dual threat as Driscoll is, but he can run the football.
He can move,
and so can Will Greer. So that kind of shows you that they like that. They like to have a QB that can throw the ball. They want someone that can sling it in there, but they also like someone who can run around and maybe be mobile in the pocket and make some plays with his legs. So moving on from that, Florida's got 2 receivers that are scheduled to come in this weekend, one on an official visit and one unofficially. The one who's coming on an official is Ryan Timmons from Kentucky. He's the guy that popped up late on Florida's board. He got offered a couple weeks back, and it looks like a guy that Joker Phillips had his eye on there for a while. It seemed like Kentucky was the team that was to beat for him, and Florida entered the picture and offered. Ohio State followed suit a couple days later. I would say right now that Ohio State appears has a slight edge. He's visited there before. He's not going to take an official visit, but he likes the Buckeyes. He spoke highly of them throughout his recruitment. And then obviously Kentucky being the in-state school, you got to think that they're going to be in the picture as well. But if he makes that visit to Florida as scheduled, you have to like Florida's chances because of Joker Phillips and the need that they have at receiver.
Would they take 2 more receivers, Zach, or do you think it's one of those guys is going to accept and the other one's going to go somewhere else?
I would lean more towards one guy, just because 7 receivers is a lot to have in one class, especially with Timmons and James Clark, who's the other receiver visiting this weekend. They have a very similar skill set. You already have Chris Thompson and Alvin Bailey, who are also kind of slot guys. So if you're talking about bringing in 4 guys who all kind of do the same things, who knows? I mean, I wouldn't rule it out because they have the scholarship room, with the way the board looks like it's shaking out as we approach signing day. But I would lead more towards them wanting one of those guys.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they took both because it seems pretty apparent that they want receivers.
Yeah, and it seems like Clark is the guy that can stretch the field, Zach. He
Yeah.
has that up top level speed that they need in the offense right now.
Yeah, and he's the better one of the two prospects. I mean, his offer list kind of tells you that.
Yeah, his stock went up late in the year. When people looked at his highlight tape, I think that they caught on to how good this kid is.
Well, and I remember reading one scout said, if he wasn't so short, he would have had offers from around the country. I think that's the only knock on him. But the speed's there, the playmaking ability's there. He's got incredible moves. Like you said, a lot of schools came in late with offers. Ohio State, Texas, Clemson. I mean, you're talking about some big-time programs. But I like Florida's chances. I think he's the one that's going to end up making it into the class. I know he's taken other visits to schools, but the fact that Florida's the in-state school, he's came down here. He's going to come this weekend on his own dime, and he's already done that once already.
Yeah.
That says a lot to me. So we'll see what happens. I think they'll get at least one of those guys, and who knows, like you said, maybe they could get both.
Yeah, and the fact that Clark had this great visit apparently to Ohio State, and he talked about it on Twitter, but yet he didn't pull the trigger, didn't even come close, it looked like. And I think he was infatuated with admiring the coaching staff there, but he didn't pull the trigger. So Florida's in good with him, I would think.
Yeah, and I tell you what, man, I mean, every kid is different. I know it was really cold up there in Ohio this weekend. I have family up there. So maybe he liked that. Maybe that turned him off. I mean, I know Daniel McMillan told me the weather was too cold for him up there when he took a visit. So
yeah, a lot of Florida kids don't like that 10 degrees and stuff.
So I think for Clark, it's going to come down to Florida, Ohio State, and Clemson. I think they're in the picture pretty good. So we'll see how that shakes out. The other official visitor that they're having this weekend is Jannard Boswick.
This would be a huge get for Florida.
He is. He's a great player. He's actually, he's not really been listed that high as far as his weight goes, but his coach said he's up to 315 pounds now. So he's definitely a defensive tackle all the way.
Yeah.
Florida needs guys inside. He's an ESPN 300 prospect. He's got offers from some big-time programs like Alabama and Miami. The Hurricanes seem all along like they were the team to beat. He's a down south kid. They're close to home. He's got some ties to the school, but all the chatter and the rumors seem to suggest that Florida's kind of taking the lead for him. They get the last visit. They got Muschamp in home with him last Thursday, so Florida really looks like they're trending upwards with him.
And he could definitely come in and play right away, I think. If you look at his tape and how big and physical he is, he could play right away.
Well, I've seen some people say that they think he's every bit as good as Caleb Brantley and even Montravius Adams. Obviously Montravius Adams is a five-star, type of prospect. But he hasn't maybe faced the competition that Boswick has down there, toward the Miami area, and we all know how good the talent is down there. So if Florida can pull that off, that would be huge. That'd be a huge get for them, and I think that they're hoping to close the deal this weekend.
Well, one more thing, Zach, I wanted to ask you, because Florida people have been asking me, it's about Keith Kelsey, the Gainesville High linebacker, that he commits to Louisville the other day. If he's good enough for Charlie, why isn't he good enough for Muschamp? I mean, people are asking me that, and I think it's a good question.
It is a great question.
If you've seen the kid play.
And he can't answer that for you. I've always been a big believer in him. I'm kind of biased being from GHS and covering a lot of his games. I really like what he brings to the table. But he's got the stats to back it up. His coach, 193 tackles in a season.
He's a machine.
That's over 12 a game. And he was playing on a high level, too. You're talking about 6A, making it all the way to the state championship game. There must have been something there that Florida, and maybe it wasn't so much something they didn't like about him, but maybe they like some other guys a little bit more.
Because they have a board, and I mean, they don't put you higher on the board because you're playing for so-and-so. So they have a board. He obviously wasn't at the top. Yeah,
and I think Alex Anzalone, I personally believe he's going to be a middle linebacker just because of his frame and how smart he is, his football IQ. I think that, I could see him kind of being the quarterback of the defense in the future. So I think with him coming aboard, that really kind of hurt Kelsey's chances as far as making the class. I know they lost James Hearns, but it looks like they're there's a good chance that they're going to replace him with Quentin Powell, who was once committed to Gaither. Not replace him as they play the same positions, but I think if he comes on board, it's going to be tougher for Florida to take another linebacker in addition to Powell.
Yeah, and Florida would love for Powell to come back on board. I think
Yeah.
we're all pretty obvious with that one.
Yeah, he had an in-home visit with him. It was Monday night, so Florida's definitely hoping that he comes back on board. He's a talented prospect. He needs to add some weight, but he was an Under Armour All-American. He's been an ESPN 150 prospect all along, and he's there for a reason.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Zach, it's going to be quite a final weekend for Florida. So, Zach will be on top of it. So look for his stuff on Twitter and on our website and in the paper. And we'll be back next Tuesday for our fourth special recruiting Swampcast. I'm Robbie Andrew and Zach Albaverde. We'll see you next week.